First of all, I wonder if you could tell us what is the latest on the fighting? Which areas is the fighting most intense?
Actually, Khartoum now is under fire, and now fighting is still erupting in different spots in the capital, especially in Omdurman city, where it's a strategic position and a strategic location for the military that has been controlling of since April 15th. And also, while I'm speaking to you right now, there is clashes that morphed into tribal clashes in Al-Fashir city in Darfur, which is really warning of a looming civil war there, because the clashes in Al-Fashir, and it was preceded by clashes in Al-Junaynah and also other cities and towns near the borders with CAR. That means that the RSF are trying to lock Darfur area and trying to get supplies through one of the neighboring countries, which is really warn of a looming civil war, and it will definitely prolong the conflict. So while I'm speaking to you, the conflict is in Khartoum, in Al-Fashir, south of Darfur, north of Darfur. So the situation is really escalating and it's not improving at all.
This is really disturbing news. There seem to be repeated attempts for ceasefires. We spoke a few weeks ago and there was a patchy ceasefire. Some aid, I think, got through. But talk to me about ceasefire attempts and the humanitarian situation within those areas where fighting is most intense.
Actually, whenever there is a ceasefire, people on the ground and residents of Khartoum are complaining and reporting a deteriorating situation, whether it's health situation, security situation, and of course, humanitarian situation. So a ceasefire means that once it's expired, that means there is new fighting and escalation on the ground. Regarding the humanitarian situation, people are still suffering. In Khartoum, in the capital, they can't get food or medicine. Even the humanitarian assistance that provided by a lot of UN agencies and NGOs, they can't deliver it to Khartoum because of unsafe and insecure humanitarian corridors. So the humanitarian situation is deteriorating every week in the capital Khartoum, and of course in Al-Junaynah, west of Darfur, where the fighting there morphed into tribal clashes, and it makes it very difficult or like impossible for aid workers to deliver any aid amid the continuation of the fighting in the capital and in Darfur.
So, bearing in mind that the capital city is still under siege, how are ordinary citizens living? I mean, are there communications? Are there radio stations operating? Are shops open? Are markets selling goods? Is ordinary life continuing despite the violence, or is everything really kind of under siege at this point?
Actually, everything is under siege. Telecommunication are very sporadic, especially in the capital Khartoum and in Darfur, but especially in the capital, because there is nothing is happening there. There is no shops, no markets, only fighting and fighting back. The trade attacks make it impossible for telecommunication companies and engineers and bankers with their administration to sustain anything. And the other sad thing is that Khartoum is a business hub for all of the factories, for all of the services, for telecommunications, for banks, for money, for shops. So people are really suffering in the capital and outside the capital. So people now are trying to cope with this new situation. At some areas, like in northern Khartoum, Bahri City, they are coping that they are under control of RSF. They are complaining RSF soldiers to RSF officers whenever they see violations. So people are trying to cope with the situation. They see soldiers with them in the markets. They see them in the coffee shops. They see them shopping with them. So the situation is really bad. And Khartoum now, it's a military barrack. It's not a city, and it's not valid to live in it. But people are, of course, have their own reasons, and some of them, they don't have a lot of options to leave the city because the roads are unsafe. Some people, they don't have shelters outside the city. They were born and raised in Khartoum. Their houses are in Khartoum. So people are coping with the situation, but it's really difficult, and the death toll is rising. because of the chaotic fighting and the targeted attacks everywhere.
And I wonder if you're able to share with us, Naba, where exactly you are and how you're living day to day. I mean, is one able to draw money from the bank and go and buy things, for example? What is your situation? How do you keep your life going?
Actually, I'm only like a few kilometers away from Khartoum. We can say from 80 to 130 kilometers away from Khartoum. This is Al Jazeera State, Central Sudan. So services here are impacted by the services in Khartoum. We can't get money, we can't get cash, we can't get enough food. Despite that, there's new markets opened from neighboring Ethiopia and also from Egypt. So now the situation is a bit better, but we are suffering every day to get even water and electricity. We have power outages for more than 10 hours every day, and we have water shortages. We only have water for 2 hours every day. So we are trying to cope too, but the situation is really bad, not in Khartoum, but also in other regions, especially in Al Jazeera, because there is overpopulation of people who came from Khartoum to Al Jazeera, and the infrastructure is not good enough to receive all of the displaced people from Khartoum.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people in distress, and as you've explained so well, a real risk now of civil war, particularly around Darfur, and the humanitarian situation just seems to be worsening by the day. I just want to thank you so much for updating us, and we hope that you're able to stay safe and eke out some form of living in a very difficult and dire situation. It's absolutely awful. That's our correspondent in Sudan, Naba Mohiedeen, and she is about 100 and so kilometers away from the capital, Khartoum, which is still under siege all the way since mid-April. So we're talking, nearly 2 months now.